Okay, so when we go over the first book of Samuel from chapters 1 to 6, right? Because we stopped at 6. So I said we're going to look up these keywords. Would it be Shiloh, which is the city that the Ark of the Covenant was in, right? So it says here, a city that was once the center of religious worship for the Israelites, as well as the prophetic figure associated with the coming of the Messiah, right? It can also mean a gift from God or peaceful one, right? Shiloh was a city. It was a prominent city in ancient Israel with the tabernacle and Ark of the Covenant were housed. It was a significant religious center in Jerusalem. Okay, now, and the definition of that name means it's translated as his gift or a peaceful one. It can also be interpreted as he who is it, he whose it is, or that which is his. Okay. Now we're going to go to Hannah, right? Oops. Grace or favor, right? It's a variation of the Hebrew name Shahana, right, which also means favor or grace. This name is associated with Hannah, the mother of the prophet of Samuel in Old Testament, right, which we already just finished reading. Right, so now we're going to go over to glory. High renown or honor won by notable achievements, magnificence, or great beauty, or take great pride or pleasure in, right? Now we're gonna head over, we're gonna stop there. So Hannah, of course, was, suffering from a little bit of a barren situation, and she was provoked, which is really foul, and at the same time it did have a toll on her, because her being who she was, she wanted to be a good wife, she wanted to have a child, she wanted to do right in the Lord's eyes. Also, another word, she kept referring to herself as a maid servant, right? So let's look up this word. Maid servant, a female domestic servant. Okay, so in the Bible, a maid servant refers to a female servant or slave, often a member of a household, performing various tasks. Now, she didn't refer to herself as a maid servant to her husband. She referred to herself as a maid servant to the Lord, because her husband never spoke to her as if she was a, which they did have back then, a maid servant for him, or a slave for him. He referred to her as his wife, and in the scripture it stated that these were his two wives. So Phineah, who I'm assuming was probably the one who was really provoking her. It didn't speak. I just assume it had to be her, because they're both in the household, they're both his wives, and she has sons on top of sons, and Hannah doesn't have anything. So even when they go and they go to the house and they worship, still Hannah was very, very sorrowful. But anywho, we're going to go a little further deep into the context of it, because Shiloh was a place of okay. As you heard, there was a bit of a distraction, but I honestly don't think that was exactly what it was. I don't think it was a distraction. I think the fact that the little one came over, and he literally collapsed on the bench right next to me, and just literally dropped his bike. and all you kept hearing over and over was break, 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 which means maybe I needed to take a break, because I did need to go back and pull out the keynotes from what I knew that I was going to do for this video. So that's what I basically did. So and then also for him to say that his stomach was hurting, I said, okay, there's a reason for that too. So I was able to break, which is interesting because the little boy kept saying break, 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 break. And after that, he was just like, his stomach. So I said, well, let me look into this and see. Okay, it says the stomach is also referred to as the belly or the gut, symbolizing a connection between the physical and spiritual realms, often representing our capacity for both emotional and spiritual growth. It can signify a seat of feelings, intuitive knowledge, and the physical manifestation of spiritual experiences. So, yeah, right off the back, I was like, wait a minute. Like, maybe when they were passing by, maybe they could feel what I was tapping into, which is God, right? And then also that allowed me to break to go and actually go through my keynotes of what I had said that I was going to speak about. So I know the last thing I was talking about was the place of Shiloh, the city of Shiloh, and the definition behind that. So let's head back to that. Okay, so being that it states here, it's a city that the center of religious worship for the Israelites and was a prophetic figure associated with the coming of the Messiah and the gift from God, right? So they already, as a family, was going up to Shiloh to worship and to do their annual sacrifice. And Hannah, of course, like I had stated before, was barren, and she was being provoked about the fact that she has not been able to give her husband any children. All right, so let's go to my notes here. Also, with the little boy suffering from stomach pains, makes me think about Samuel being a child and going and filling up some very strong strong shoes that he had to fill, because he was basically a child that Hannah had gave to God on loan because of her servitude for God, and the fact that God had given her a child, and she had prayed and asked for that, and God had bestowed that to her. And being that had occurred, she followed through. She gave her child to God, and that is where her child grew up at. So, as I stated here, in my notes, Samuel grew up before the Lord. And by Samuel growing up before the Lord, Samuel had no opportunity to decide what he wanted for his life. His life was already decided for him. And that's something that a lot of us have to constantly, I don't want to say constantly, but some of us have to really kind of think about. When you look at situations and you don't quite understand why things are folding the way that they're unfolding, it's because we have already have what's ordained for us. Sometimes what makes it so difficult and so hard is the fact that we're trying to go against what God has already set up for us, right? So Samuel did grow up before the Lord, and Hannah, she visited her child, and she did what any other mother could do in that position. She honored the sacrifice. She honored the fact that her child was going to be a prophet, that he was going to be able to connect and hear from the Lord, which he did. So that goes back to the little boy stopping, and his other family members didn't feel any type of pain or anything like that, but he felt it immediately as he was passing by me. So that goes to state right there off the back that a child will be ministering, and he had to stop the recording or whatever because he did lay there for a while, and he just kept stating over and over, he's like, no, you guys are always going up before me. He's like, and they're like, but you were going so hard, you was going so fast, just take it easy, but let's keep going, right? So that's something else that I thought that stood out too, the fact that even though you feel that you're doing your best, you feel that you're going so hard, you feel that you are excelling in so many different fields and so many different levels, but yet you feel like you're getting nowhere, like a hamster on a wheel. At the same time, sometimes certain situations occur in order for you to take a stop and a pause, for you to be able to look back and say, okay, I need to just reset for a second. Not in the sense of resetting where you are resetting everything, but reset as in you need time to reset. You need the time to rest. You need a time to recalibrate. You need to allow God to step in and do what he's going to do, right? But let me get back to my notes. So yeah, sometimes the child has way more to say than what we actually allow them to say. And I believe a lot of times elders have a tendency of thinking that because they've been here for so long that they have a sense of entitlement and a sense of thinking that they deserve nothing but the best. They deserve everything. Whereas a child also has an opportunity to come in, and not even just a child, someone that is of younger stature also has an opportunity to come in and be able to have the knowledge and the connection with God. So here I had put appearance to others, right? So remember, Hannah had appeared to be as if she had taken in a strong drink, but Hannah didn't have anything to drink. Hannah was just really heavy with sorrow. Hannah was really going through it. Hannah was really upset about the fact that she could have not conceived anyone and any children to be able to give on to her husband. And it took a toll on Hannah, right? But Hannah didn't have trust. Hannah then switched from that energy of when her husband was stating to her, is my love not enough? Is it not more than 10 sons? And it's not like he was being jealous, but it's in a sense of him telling her, like, I don't care. I don't care. And it's not everybody's going to be able to understand or to be able to understand the connection that you have with God and know what you are trying to do. Not everyone's going to be able to connect with the way that your relationship is set up. But Hannah knew what she wanted, and so she went to God and asked for that petition, and her husband seconded that petition in order for her to be able to have that. Right? So it may appear a certain way to others based off the fact that how it appears to you. Oh, here comes more people. Or how it may appear to you, right? And when she gave her sacrifice to the Lord, which was her child, she stated that he would not ever cut or shave. A razor would never touch his head. His head would never become shaven, right? And it made me immediately think about Samson and Delilah. And I was watching a small little thing on Samson and Delilah the other day, and one of the ladies on here was talking about it. And I believe at times you could become so aggravated and so provoked that you just give in. Because I believe the whole get up is to get you to tell your secret. And your secret is not like, oh, she has a secret or he has a secret. Your secret is your connection with God. How do you, your favor, your understanding your grace, your understanding your favor. I think some of us do walk around and we're blinded the fact that we have such a large covering and that we have such a large favor and we have such a large grace. And that was another thing that Hannah's name has signified, which is grace, So far we're looking at it. Shiloh was God's gift. Hannah was God's grace, so, which also brings it back to glory, which ties that all in as well, with glory being a gift from God and also being the fact that it's something that is earned by what you've done. And in Hannah's situation, it was her servitude, it was her loyalty, it was her faith, right? So now when I speak about oppression, right, I want to go back and talk about the priest Eli with his two sons, Hophni and Phineas. And the fact that they took the flesh hook, which I'm assuming is just a very large fork, but I'll look into that too, and decided that they would take the raw meat. And what made me think about that immediately was the fact that they were stacking up, right? They were stacking up meat, because why would they want the raw meat? Why would they not take the boiled meat that everyone else would be eating eventually? They already was going to get the top. They was already going to get that froth, what was bubbling up on the top. So they they were already ordained to have the first pickings and of the best and of all, right? Because that's how God already set it up for them. But they became very complacent in their position, and they became very greedy. And he knew. I felt like he did not know. I knew that he knew, because they spoke about it in scripture, that he knew that his sons was running up amok. He knew that his sons was doing this. And the only thing that I could think of is, if you're allowing your children to act in that manner, it's because remember, your children are a representation of who you are. So if you're allowing your children to act like that in that manner, that means that that is something that you yourself are. It's just that you want others to perceive you as to be this priest, as to be this great man, as to be this noble individual, when in actuality you're not that, even though you will ordain that position, which God can quickly snatch that position right back from you. So and that's what he said he did. And when he spoke about, which is so funny, how much time do I have? When he spoke to Samuel about what he was doing, Samuel was like, "Oh no, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to repeat this, because it's rough when God tells you about his wrath and when he tells you what he's about to do, and you listen to how upset God can be, because I've already given you so much. You got the audacity to take advantage of the position that I placed you in. Then on top of that, you got the audacity to steal from the people that you're supposed to cover and protect. No, this is not good, and this is not gonna continue to ride. And it's like, for you to get God upset and him for to release that wrath it's crazy, because he's already talking about the things that he was doing and how it's going to continue forth. Which, that was something else I didn't even discuss. How it was going to continue forth even from generation to generation to generation, right? So, which keynote on that, I have to bring that up too. So, and Samuel grew up before the Lord. Yeah, I spoke on that. Hannah was blessed with more children. Oh yes. So as she continued to go forth and visit her child, and Samuel grew up, God came in, and this is something I was reading it in the actual Bible. I'm reading this now with my phone, but I was reading in the actual Bible like yesterday. And then 2 days before that, and then I had already been like sitting on this for a moment, because I'm like, wait a minute, for him to come in, right? Because he said God visit Hannah in order for her to be able to conceive more, right? So that was another blessing on top of blessing, because she had multiple children. She had daughters and sons after Samuel. And from there, and Samuel grew up, in the church, I would say, but he grew up in priesthood, and he was able to continue forth and become a great prophet, from a child onto a man. And from that, she was blessing more children, right? But that's another time I'll touch base on that. So, which I thought was something I wanted to dive into too. So I was like, that is so cool, like, to be blessed on top of that, and then think that you are barren. And I had already came over two videos this morning before I went on my walk, and the woman was discussing about being barren and how not being barren, having her child at a more mature age. I mean, I say older, that just sounds, but a more mature age, and how you can't go against what God has set up. Like, what is for you is for you, and what is not for you is not for you. And here, looking at this situation, I'm like, this makes a lot of sense, in so many ways, more than one. And then also about not being able to overly extend your grace and your glory, because you're trying so hard to get others to see the light, right? You're trying so hard to get others to see the path. You're trying so hard to get others to be able to follow the Messiah. You're trying so hard to get others to wake up from all of the negativity and all the other things that are occurring. So with that being said, and it goes flipping right back to God cursing that bloodline, cursing that generation, and who he deems free is who he will set free, right? Because who have eyes to see has eyes to see, who have ears to hear has ears to hear. And it's not up to you to decide who can be removed from damnation. That's not your place. And I myself had suffered from that because I had thought that I'm just going so hard to try to get others to see for so long, like my whole life, and not in a sense like beating people up with the Bible, but understanding and trying to see people of the error of their ways, and not saying that I'm better than anyone, because I'm not, but at the same time trying to get people to trying to free people from the madness, and now understanding that that's just another trick of, oh yeah, I want to be free, oh yeah, I need this, I need that, but in actuality it's just, they just want the covering of your light, they just want your glory, but they want to continue to keep sinning, right? And that's something I had a conversation with a sibling about. It's a need to want to keep sinning, but at the same time they want to have a fence protected around them, they want to have a covering around them, and you don't even know how big your glory is. You don't know how the levels and the capacity of how it can strengthen and your borders, like you don't know how far out your borders are when it comes to your glory that God has bestowed upon you, right? And then the fact that this family was only like not too far away from, they were in Shiloh, so it's like they already was in a holy space because the Ark of the Covenant was in there. Oh yeah, I gotta get to that too. So how much time do I have? Okay, so in here my notes, who intercedes for God? Twice into captivity, oppressed, afraid to become slaves, and destruction. So, okay, as you see, the Philistines, they would continuously keep battling with the Israelites, and things was not working in anyone's favor. And Mr. Eli had lost his children on the same day in the battlefield, and it was not a good look for him. And then he wound up passing away himself when he fell out of his chair. And from there, they then caught wind to the fact that why would these people be worshiping and praying and all this other stuff, when the fact that we just beat them again, like why are they happy? Then they found out that the Ark of the Covenant was there because they brought it down from Shiloh, because they wanted to really worship, even through the fact that they was not winning the war at that time, because they were going into battle and still yet they were worshiping. So that right there is a sign to let you know you got to keep your faith up, even when it looks, like I said earlier about appearances, when it may look like you don't have nothing, when it may look like you are without, you still have to have faith. Like you still got to keep pulling forward. So you still just got to just kind of bask yourself in that glory and in that worshiping. Because even then, when they were questioning, like, why is this happening? But at the same time, they're like, man, we're just going to worship. We're just going to go get the Ark of the Covenant. We're going to worship because we know that we worship a God that does not play. We worship a God that is a giving God, a loving God. So the Philistines caught wind that they had the Ark of the Covenant, and they just looking at it as another God, because that's what they kept saying. Oh, they got their God over there. Their gods are the ones that had defeated us in Egypt. Like, we need that, so we're going to go and steal that. Be very careful. God don't like that. You touching his jewels, you're taking from him. So by you taking from him, at the end of the day, that clapback is going to be something serious. So when we look at the definition of destruction, the action or process of causing so much damage to something that it no longer exists or cannot be repaired, right? So destruction, and that was like the last line that I had wanted to read. The deadly destruction. So God did not play. And then if you notice, even their gods had fell over, the god of Dagon. So listen, just go in faith and don't worry about any of this stuff. They come for you, they try to do whatever they possibly can to you, it's still not working. They try to distract you, they do whatever they possibly can to try to throw you off your mark. It's not working. It's not working. And that was only 6 chapters that I read and that we observed. So at the end of the day, you have no fret, no need to be concerned about, no need to worry. You just gotta have faith, and you stay in that faith, and you enclose yourself in worship music, you enclose yourself in glory, because you already got your crown. They were so afraid, they didn't know what to do. And mind you, they never wanted to give back the Ark of Covenant until they noticed that all of their lands that they kept sending it to was causing a great deadly destruction. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, like, and I kept hearing in my head when I was reading that last line, too hot to handle. Like, God's hand is all in there, and they thinking that because they stole it that they can. It's like, how dare you have the audacity to think that you can control a power that created you? Just extremely disrespectful. Like, he had to go out there, he had to whip some feet, like, real quick. Like, nah, this is not going to work for you. It doesn't matter how many times you think it's going to work for you, it is not working for you. And as we had witnessed in book of Samuel, chapters 1-6, it did not work. And when you have faith and you make sure that you stay loyal to your word and to your bond with God, everything is going to work in your favor. Because he's already deemed it for you, because he knew you before you knew yourself, because he knew you in the womb. So, anywho, I love you. You got this. And don't worry about anything. Just keep moving forward. One foot in front of the other. That's all you got to do. One foot in front of the other. Bye.